do it for sure. For
Yeah.
sure. Well, it's great to meet you. And I would love to begin our conversation with we're coming up on the 4-year anniversary of this pandemic. So I'm curious, how did you survive it? And how did it subsequently change you?
Oh, that's a great question. So it's interesting because we actually kind of thrived in COVID. So my main business is actually in staffing, which was servicing our company mic'd up right now, in that we really were supporting small business owners. So our model was really that business owners should be able to have fractional support that allows them to scale up and down based on what was going in business. So nothing proved that model or theory more than COVID, right? So what we saw was actually COVID 2020, 2021 were really our banner years, because people were coming to us as businesses were slowly opening and needing services and then wanting to get back out there and promote what they were doing and using podcasts. So we really became that nimble tool for business owners that we always thought we should be. Post COVID, what's been awesome is, when we first started, most people would say, well, how do I know that people are really working at home? How do I know that this fractional outsourced model of any type of relationship is going to work? Now that everyone has been forced into that situation, they know, oh, it is still real work at home. So that was probably my number one question pre-COVID, and I've never been asked it since. So that was a great hurdle we jumped.
It's fascinating to me, and I don't know when this happened. I think it was so I've been doing podcasting. I have a jazz radio show, and I branched out, and I'm interviewing professionals in all kinds of disciplines all over the world. But I did jazz radio since 2011, and it was never a hip thing. It was never the cool thing. It was never something that Hollywood based shows and movies off of. It was just kind of something that Steve Jobs coined the term, and it's like it's some kind of entertainment that's not on network TV or radio. But it's become this thing, like you said, where it's a vehicle for people to get their ideas out. You get to
Mhm.
tap into their audience. And what better way to do that, allocate those dollars, than to actually get to know somebody and get to the essence of what people do.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I grew up with a dad that listened to NPR. I
Yeah.
remember driving early mornings listening to that. So I think podcasts are just rebranded AM radio,
Sure. Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, you would flip the dial to go to almost like an educational series. And that's really what podcasting is. So it's been rebranded, it's up with the times. There's obviously more content available. But yeah, I mean, it is a true platform for networking, for getting your story out, your why, what you're servicing. And then the fringe benefits of that are huge as well, right? Because now you're developing SEO, you're building networking relationships, you're repurposing that media for your own social media and business development resources. So for me, what I saw, and this is why we started the company, it was like, this is a one-stop shop, truly, for entrepreneurs, business owners to go, I want to network, I need social media, I want SEO, I want organic growth, and I want to build connections, especially if you're in a space that regions or geography does not limit you. This is a fantastic resource to tap into.
So let's get to the essence of exactly what you do on a daily basis. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of
Yeah.
third graders. It's career day. And one of the kids says, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer that child?
Yeah. So overall, I would say I support small businesses and gaps in their resources. That's what I would give it to. For the podcasting, I would say we get people on as podcast guests.
Yeah. So what did you want to be when you were in the third grade? What was your dream?
Oh, I don't really remember having dreams. I just remember working.
Yeah.
Everything in my life has kind of just fell in its way. But probably, I think at some point I wanted to be an actress. I wanted to be a teacher. I mean, all of the above.
So let's go back to your childhood. How did these seeds of getting into business and ultimately helping business owners and helping people, how did all of this grow into who you are today?
Yeah, so I grew up in a small business household. So my parents owned a medical lab that they eventually sold to LabCorp. So that was the lines of what they did. We truly worked in that from, I mean, the age of 10. I was running the front desk. And so I had kind of a unique perspective throughout that time of hearing my parents' employees kind of vent about things they needed, wanted, et cetera, and then sitting at the dinner table and hearing the stresses of a business owner, right? And I was kind of in the middle of those. And so I would hear my parents talking about not being able to afford their next employee, or we all had to work until we could get to afford that employee. And then I heard employees, feeling like they were being shortchanged. So I had a very unique perspective in that space. And I think it's actually made me, in my corporate career, really respect those people that have taken the risk to start their own business. I do not have the mentality of like, they're making so much money, why isn't it mine? Because I've seen the blood, sweat, and tears that go into and the risk of starting a business, right? And so I think I came out of that with just really a very hard work ethic, a really kind of mediator stance of wanting to support employees, but also understanding what it feels like to be in business owner shoes. And ultimately, I went in as an executive assistant. I was supporting a lot of C-levels, business owners. And then it really morphed into, well, let's take this to the fractional level. That was the gap that I really found was business owners either thought, well, I can afford one employee, and so I'll wait to do that. And that person will be everything from my sales department to my accountant, which doesn't exist. And so they were underwhelmed and employees didn't like the relationship. And so there was just this gap. And so it started out in the staffing space of providing fractional support, but along that way, that's how podcast came to be, was we really saw, okay, there's also a marketing and networking, a social media support gap that business owners don't want to go to a huge marketing company. They don't have a $10,000 ad budget, but they still want a way to get their story out. And so that's where podcasting came to be. And we launched Mic Up about 3 years ago, even though we've been doing this now for about 8 years, kind of underground in our staffing company.
What was the first podcast that you got addicted to that you loved?
Oh, by far how I built this. I love that show. I could nerd out on entrepreneur journeys all day long. So
Yeah.
it's so cool to me to see people that you look at and think, oh, well, they've made it. Look at, they've sold their company. They're amazing. And then hear their humble beginnings and they're going through the same things that you've done and hear solutions that they came up with, how they got creative, how they overcame obstacles. I love hearing that.
What's one of your favorite business success stories ever?
Oh, that's a good question. Oh man. From the show?
Well, or even just at the world at large. I mean, what entrepreneur out there has a model that you find admirable or somebody's
Okay.
rise to fame, that kind of thing?
So I will tell you it's by far Marcus Lemonis. He has a show on CNBC and I really just love his approach. It's very people, process, product oriented. He really kind of goes in no fluff, really wants to get down to the core of what's going on, build in successful businesses, and he's invested in people. And that's what I see is think something that's unique about me is even in my staffing is I'm more interested in the person and the potential I see in them as opposed to their resume. And I would say he has that approach even with business. He invests in the people. He sees them and goes, okay, you're a hard worker. You're a man of character. I see your vision. Now let me help and bring the resources to you to bring this to life. So really, really appreciate his approach to business.
So who's been a hero for you, an inspiration for you in your life?
Oh, so many. Um, I mean, definitely my parents, just in everything that they went through, and really once they sold their business to LabCorp, they exited and started a nonprofit. And so, we love to work, we love to be busy and have a purpose. And so they've been able to really fulfill that even in their retirement years through that. But I would say, there's so many business owners along the way that I look up to and seek advice from, really in just finding people that aren't chasing the dollar, but truly want to provide a good service. And sometimes that means you lose a dollar because you need to do what's right. And so finding other entrepreneurs that I can connect with on that level is a huge help to me.
So if you could meet one person on this planet right now that you find fascinating or admire, who would it be? Who
Mm.
would you love to meet and talk to?
Oh man, these are great questions.
Good.
Um, there's like a range in my head. I'm like, there's funny people that I really love this. I honestly would probably say Marcus, even though I just said that,
Yeah.
because I would love to be like on his team. Like the thought of being able to go in, help businesses, see what they need, see and grow them to success. Even though my tiny portion of that is helping with staffing and marketing efforts, it's such a fulfillment to see people really grow.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. What is your motivation every day to wake up, to help small businesses, and to evolve as a professional yourself? What is that motivation for you every day?
Yeah, I think I just naturally love to serve. I'm really not money driven. I just love to accomplish. I love to serve. I love to see people just achieve greatness. It's funny because actually last week I went to a cooking class and it was at this restaurant and the chef was there and she was the owner as well. And she was talking about how she was an engineer and about 2 years into her career, she realized like, this is not what I love. And totally scratched it, built this business, thought of a restaurant concept, had never cooked before, moved to France to learn how to be a culinary chef and open this business. And like that is so cool to me. I love to see people achieve greatness that I know they have in them. And I think sometimes people hold back from that because they're scared, they're afraid of the risk. And so when you break through that barrier, it's just an awesome world that you come out on.
You know, when I was in high school, there was a guy that I used to know. I think we were in cross country together. We were runners, and we were friends at the time. Not real close, but enough to be friends. And I
Mhm.
remember I asked him at one point, just out of the blue, I was like, "What do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want to do?" And he said definitively, "I'm
Mm.
going to be a world-class chef." And I was like, I didn't even know he cooked. And now today, his name is Christopher Elbow, and he has a chocolate empire here in town. He's
Oh
like
my
he does
word.
like artisan chocolates. He's been featured on Oprah. Oprah's bought his stuff. Obama's bought his
Good
stuff.
for him.
Yeah. So I had so every time I see that name, it's like I think, if you really want it, just that's it. You can do it.
I mean, it's kind of a joke even in my friend groups is like, don't mention something that you want to do around me because we will now go make it happen.
Yeah.
Like, I don't believe in just kind of wishing. It's like, no, like set out with what you want and let's
Yeah.
figure out a way to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I love seeing people accomplish that.
Yeah, it's wonderful. So, what's been one of your favorite client success stories in all of these capacities that you're in? What's one that always puts a smile on your face?
Oh man, there's a lot. Okay, so I will say one of our first clients, it was actually an attorney. He was working for a firm and we started working with them on kind of a fractional space, supplying paralegals, et cetera. And about 2 years in, he called me one day and was like, "Hey, I'm gonna go do my own thing. I'm gonna exit. I'm gonna do this," which is a huge leap. I mean, he was at a nationwide firm, he was on his track to be partner, all these things. And he was like, "I need you like by my side. Like, I need to know that like any talent I need, any resource, any like advice, question, like, can you help me with?" And we were like, absolutely. And so it felt a little like we were kind of like building something in the midnight hours, and just kind of really laying out what his business plan was going to be, what type of staff he was going to need, what that budget was going to be. And now he's, multi-citied, Manhattan, Atlanta, adding on as well. And the firm has just grown tremendously. And I kind of think about that because, he could have stayed where it was safe, got the paycheck, made partner, but he's really just ventured out, did his own thing. And now when we talk, I'm like, "Could you ever go back?" He's like, "No, I couldn't." So that kind of stuff is just really cool to me. And to be any small part of it is so exciting.
So, if you had a dream tonight, you ran into the 20-year-old version of you, and you could give that young version of you a piece of advice based on the wisdom you've gained in your life so far, what advice would you impart on that young version of you?
I would say to start sooner. I think I did not even think of possibly doing something on my own. It felt very like, well, no, you just go get a job. And that was great. And I learned so much from that. But I think there was probably a piece of me that was always toying with some kind of idea, some kind of like business. What could this look like? And the ideas that have come have been hilarious along the way. But I think, I would have said, just start sooner, take the risk. It only gets easier when you're young. You're too young and dumb to know any different. But everything works out for a reason. And so definitely chase those dreams.
So, of all of the things that you've done and become and overcome and achieved, what are you the proudest of?
Well, outside of my children and family, obviously, which would definitely be my most proud achievement by far. They're amazing humans. I would say, one thing that sticks out to me was when we first started the business, we were doing taxes at the end of the year, and we had kind of our employment 1099, all of that. And we had significant amount that went into our employees and to our contractors. And that was a really cool moment for me because part of what I really wanted to do was provide opportunities for women to work that may not be able to be in the workplace, whether it was for children, stay-at-home moms, lifestyle, whatever. The fractional really allowed them to be there. And when I saw those numbers, that was really cool to me to know that that much had been put into households and women opportunities that really would not have had another avenue to do so. And so when I hear the team members come and say, this is so awesome, we're able to pay our car payment or go on vacation or now save for college, like um the most success you're ever going to feel and the most high is really being able to give back. I mean, it's cliche, but it's so true.
Yeah. So everyone out there has a perception of you, family, friends, clients, colleagues, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
That's funny. I think I am a total goofball at heart. I love to have fun and love to be very silly, but I can know when to be serious. And so I think more than anything, I love to be with family and friends. I love to entertain people. I love to have people over. I love to serve people, love people. But I also understand business. And so I love being able to practice both sides of that. And I think humor makes business fun because
Yeah.
there's some stressful days.
Yeah, for sure. So what do you like the best about living in Atlanta and what do you miss about California?
Okay, California for sure, the weather,
Uh-huh.
for sure.
Oh
It's
yeah.
amazing. Atlanta is a great foodie town. It
Wow.
really is. We have
Okay.
some amazing chefs, great restaurants. The Braves are awesome. So we have a lot of sports, a lot of concerts. Travel is easy. Despite our airport, I can get anywhere pretty much nonstop. So it's a great city to be in.
Absolutely. This has been wonderful. If anyone out there wants to hire you, learn more about you, reach out, any of the good business, where do they go?
Yeah, so for podcast help, which would be great for your listeners, it's micdupbooking.com. So just MICDUP booking.com.
Excellent. Nicole, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank
Thank
you
you for
so
your
much,
story. I
Joe.
appreciate it.